Greg Orloff with IIoT World, and I am here at day 3 once again at IMTS in Chicago. The sun is still shining once again. So I'm here with Suzy Teele, and Suzy is the CSO of the ARM Institute. Welcome, Suzy.
Thank you. Nice to see you, Greg.
Nice to see you as well. So maybe let's kick things off and just give us a little bit of understanding or background, if you will, on what is the ARM Institute, for the folks who don't know.
Yeah. The ARM Institute, ARM is short for Advanced Robotics for Manufacturing. So we are one of 17 national, federally funded, nonprofit institutes under the moniker of Manufacturing USA.
Gotcha.
And so there was a decision made about 10 years ago, because we're celebrating our 10-year anniversary.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We're not that, some of the other ones are older. We're at our 7-year, but the Institute concept itself is celebrating its 10-year anniversary this year. And the decision was to try to create a series of public-private partnerships doing applied research, not basic research, because we get a lot of that in universities and other places, but doing applied research to try to bridge that gap between concept and delivery of technology to manufacturers. So the whole goal of the Manufacturing USA Institutes is focused in advanced manufacturing areas in order to make it easier for manufacturers of all sizes, but especially with a focus on small, medium-sized manufacturers, to adopt these new technologies so that we can grow U.S. manufacturing. We're not going to be able to grow through labor costs.
Sure.
We need to grow by taking advantage of technology. So my institute is focused in robotics and AI and advancing that technology, as well as dealing with some of the workforce challenges of getting people trained to work with robotics and AI in manufacturing.
Got it. It's fantastic to know that that's going on, because a lot of times the small and medium-sized companies, let alone the startups, don't have the horsepower, don't have the resources to make those things happen. So, so kudos to you folks for doing that.
Thank you.
It seems like there's such a tremendous focus everywhere in life now on artificial intelligence, and AI. It seems to creep into every facet of life. How can AI add value specifically in the IIoT realm?
Well, AI is a perfect partner with IIoT concepts, as well as my area of expertise is, which is robotics. So you imagine a robot collecting information that can be shared with other devices, right, and other processes, and then further analyzed with AI to make smarter decisions about what the robot should do next, right? And so that's kind of the perfect world that we'd like to see everything move towards. There are a lot of challenges with making that happen. One of the biggest ones is a lot of these devices don't talk to each other easily. They all have proprietary languages, as you know and your readers know very well, right, in the IIoT world. And the second is there's just a lot of misinformation about AI and machine learning and where it can provide value.
Well, let's peel that onion a little bit then.
Okay.
On that topic, from a standardization perspective, right? I mean, standards are a vital part of any evolution of a product, a process, what have you, once it gets past that initial innovation. Why do you think it's taking so long for the standards environment to evolve and develop in this particular area?
Yeah, it's a great question. I've been in tech for 30 plus years, and so I lived through the IIoT, if you will, of software, right, and software interoperability. And so when I first started working in software and working with what was then the main providers like an IBM or an HP or even DEX, that tells people how old I am, but I can say DEX, they all had their own proprietary languages, and it really was the customer that said, I won't tolerate this anymore. And so I think what we need to have is enough mass using these technologies to push the suppliers to say we're not going to tolerate this. Because when we did finally get to a point of interoperability, those major players played a role in trying to create the standards. They wanted to be part of the standards. But if we as consumers are not telling them that they need to do that, they're going to continue to have a proprietary solution. And so it's up to us, really, as consumers of their products, to push them.
That's an interesting perspective. Definitely interesting insight. What other challenges do you foresee in this whole sector of robotics and industrial IoT in the forefront in the next 2 to 5 years?
Yeah, well, certainly just standardization is probably the biggest one, and making it easier for devices to talk to each other. In the robotics world, there's an effort underway to create a common language called ROS, or Robot Operating System. It's been slow to be adopted. One of the things that we do as an institute is we fund projects to advance that state of technology for robotics and AI. And we look for projects that are incorporate ROS, right, as part of the deliverable, so that we can do as much as we can to push that. So I'd say biggest one is just that ability to be able to have these devices, provide data in a format that is something else on the other end can make sense of, right? So that's number one. The second one is security, right? So they're kind of the same issues that you hear with IIoT, right? The second one is security. People are worried about hacking robots, right? That's a real thing. So how do you build a layer of security in when you've got these devices talking to each other? I'd say those are probably the two biggest ones. And then the third big challenge is always workforce. Right, finding people who are interested in careers using advanced technology and manufacturing, helping them understand what skills they need in order to work there, helping them even understand what those jobs look like. We're I always say we're kind of like a Wild West, right, when it comes to job descriptions and roles for people in manufacturing.
Evolving too, right?
It is absolutely evolving, but the example I always use is if you decide to go into accounting, you go to pretty much any school and you'll get the same education, right? And you'll graduate with a bachelor degree, and any employer has a certain level of expectation of the skills that you have. Right. You get your certification, a CPA, people have an expectation of that skill. None of that exists in what I call advanced technology jobs. Doesn't exist. So we've been working to try to bring some normalization to that and try to make it easier to connect people who are interested with the types of jobs that are available. But that's been a big challenge overall is finding people with first the desire and secondly the skill set to be able to work in an advanced manufacturing technology environment.
If those people are out there, and I have to believe that they are, how do they get in touch with you folks? I mean, are you exhibiting at the show at IMTS this week? Is there a website we can steer them to?
Yeah, great question. One of the things that we're really proud of is that we created a free resource called roboticscareer.org. That's robotics with an S, career.org. Okay. And it is a website that's just chock full of information about what skills you should be looking for if you want to have a career in manufacturing using robotics, and of course it would extend to IoT and IIoT and AI and everything else. We cataloged close to 17,000 training programs across the United States on the site, everything from micro-credentials to PhDs, to help you find, is there something I can take? Is there something online, right? What are my options? I live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. What are my options, right? And we also have jobs. We have an average of 2,000 jobs on the site as well, too. Wow. And so that's something that, because we saw the big issue wasn't that there was a lack of training, it's a lack of knowledge of where to get the training and how much training you needed, that we're trying to solve that problem. So have people visit roboticscareer.org. Any other information, they can visit arminstitute.org.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for sharing with us, and thanks for carving out some time to talk to me today.
Well, you're welcome, Greg. Thank you very much.
All right, pleasure. Okay.